Bitcoin is seeing a massive move to the downside right now. Yes, we have world war fears going off left, right, and center, bombs galore right now. It's a very sad situation, but we are going to focus solely on the charts right now. What do we have in the technical analysis? What do we have in terms of upcoming trades? We've just broken below $100,000. So the question is, on some people's mind, is it time to long, or should we be staying in the short trades? The short trades that I've got open from $107,000, of course, right now running in for very big profits, and I have no signs of closing this short. But closing this short, I mean, by closing it now, I'm really not going to be doing that. But nevertheless, in this video, we are going to be looking at, is there a potential long trade to be had here? Should we be aggressive? And yeah, really simply, what is upcoming for Bitcoin? Because this is a massive move on a Sunday. Of course, you can be aware of the CME gap. We're going to talk about everything in this video. Just pay close attention and you will reap the rewards, so they say. So with that said, Bitcoin. To understand why we're dropping right now, I do need to bring you to it. What for me was the one and only tool that let me see a outcome of Bitcoin dropping below $100,000 next. And that was really simply only thing for me was the Elliott Wave Count, where I had a zigzag pattern, which is, I'm going to try and break it down in a way for everybody that doesn't understand Elliott waves. So in a very simple way, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down from the all-time high. So if I see 5 waves to the downside, it makes me believe, after then seeing a 1, 2, 3, that this is part of a really simple zigzag pattern. Bitcoin is massively impulsive in a bull market. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean it just goes vertically straight up, but it goes vertically straight up for a while and then it comes back down and it starts to go through a correction. And we've been sideways since the start of May, right? So we've been in a long range now for over a month. So this is clearly consolidation, or what's known in Elliott waves as a correction. So within this correction, I saw 5 waves to the downside, 3 back up. The one and only thing that I can be looking for is below $100,000. Why? Because from an Elliott wave perspective, once you've got that, you are simply looking for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to finish a zigzag correction. The only other alternate count that I had here was, instead of a zigzag, that we would be looking at a WXY. Still points us below $100,000, but instead of seeing this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I could see here a count of a 3 to give you a W, another 3 with the expanded flat to give you an X, and of course ending with another 3 down to give you a bigger WXY. So yeah, we're really simply, whether we were looking at the WXY or whether we're looking at the zigzag, both of them looked for another drop below $100,000. So in terms of, are we aware of the world war and all these things going on? Yes. Could they have an effect on the chart? Absolutely, yes. I'm not going to deny this, but of course, I've been having an Elliott wave count which points towards all-time highs. So this was asked back on the 13th of June. Is my Elliott wave count towards $130,000 invalidated with a drop? And absolutely no, it's not. It's just we are in the midst of a bigger drop in wave 4 before all-time highs. So this is all foreseen, calculated. It's not invalidation. It's not super bearish. It's just a big wave 4 before we ultimately are looking for another new all-time high. And this is where truly Elliott waves are so helpful. So let's continue to break this down a little bit. So as a tweet back from the 17th of June. So yeah, I was just explaining about the Elliott wave count. Actually had this comment from, as you can see on the side here. So no longs as I was looking for, and absolutely no, still no longs yet remaining in my short trades only for now. This was back on the 17th of June. Of course, since this post, I will explain further trades from here, but that's still the same short trade I'm in at the moment, right? 107,700. At that point, we were in around $4,000 of profit. Now we're in we doubled it. Look, $8,000 of profit. So just to really explaining here the steps that are taken. In the last video, we were talking about that rejection off of the anchored VWAP, which was also the middle of the channel, and so this was actually a very nice pull out here because everybody wanted to short $107,000. I was explaining it was a really crowded level, right? And one of two things happen. You squeeze straight through the level, or you front run the level, right? I want to explain this really briefly because of how it played out so perfectly. So I had a few questions. Daniel, what exactly does it mean to be in a crowded trade? And really simply, it's just everybody's looking at this same level. And if everybody's looking for the same level, it doesn't play out as everybody's expecting. So you get this front run scenario. This was a post from the 20th of June. Just I will hide my face so you can actually see this. But from the 20th of June, just as I was making the YouTube video, I posted on Twitter about the price front running 120. This is still while we were trading at $106,000. Price front runs the level that everybody wants to short, rejects very, very, very technically to the exact dollar actually off of the anchored VWAP resistance, which was also the middle of the parallel channel. And then the reason why this is drawn so much like liquidity in a sense, because if everybody's waiting to short $107,000 and we top out 106,500 at the anchored VWAP, well, then it creates this really nice scenario of a big crash from this pivot, because that crowded trade that everybody was looking to short has got front run. A lot of people have missed the short. So when we start to pull back, it really opens up a very, very big crash scenario. Well, really simply because of the front run of the level that, a lot of people are looking to short. And of course, at this moment in time, I still did have a few long trades open. This was also on the 20th of June. As we started to pull back from this level, I did get stopped out of my longs. So none of the longs that I had took any losses, because I had moved my stop losses up to entry. Well, I actually had no hard stop loss, but as we were pulling back, I closed my long trades for around entry price. And so, there's no hindsight here. You can see back on the 20th of June, openly posting on Twitter, out of my long trades. And now I'm going to let my short from the highs run for more profits, which is the short trade that I'm in now. And then actually the last thing that I want to say here before we move on to what we are looking at now and next is a post yesterday inside of the Champions group where I was, still on with this Elliott Wave Count for a sub $100,000. So we're trading around $104,000. And then on top of that, we actually got a rally into $104,000, which was the previous range 30-minute time frame value area low. So we came into that value area low. We got the rejection off of that. Everything is just, as I'm saying, still focused on that sub $100,000 target. And then this morning, it was even more. This was back on the 22nd. Yeah, this morning. Back on this morning, I was telling my team, personally, not taking any long trades here. Why? Because some people might have longed here. As you can see, there was a bounce happening. A lot of people are going to say, oh, we're going to front run $100,000. Oh, we're going to bounce off of the daily level that's here. Really simply, I tell my team, I'm not taking a long trade here. Please go and look at the timestamps. You can actually see the print screen here. 14 minutes past 2 posted in the group. 15 minutes past it, like that minute that I'm taking this. This is exactly what the chart looked like, just so you can understand there's no hindsight, there's no delays. It's as soon as I see it, I'm letting my team know, the champion members, not in any longs here and only got my shorts left open. And so I'm obviously looking for a bigger drop to the downside, and then beautiful, we got it. What we'd been looking for with the Elliott Wave Count, we've finally now seen, and that is a drop below $100,000, currently trading $99,900. So all of that excitement out of the way, bringing it down to reality. Well, am I going to long now? The answer is no. Otherwise, you would see me long it right now. How do we trade it then? This is this will be what we're looking at now. How are we meant to trade this price action? Well, number one would be wait for a sign of strength. Okay, a sign of strength means at the very, 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 very least, okay, a market structure change. So as you can see right now, this is a 1-minute chart. We are just going down very aggressively, very quickly. We've just taken out $100,000. We've got a little bit of a tiny bounce to the upside, but you can see there's little tiny bounces to the upside all the time on 1-minute charts. What we'd be looking at is for the first initial sign of strength will be, I would be looking at here for a little bit towards a 15-minute market structure change. You want to see at least this previous low reclaim, so getting the strength back above $100,000, or you could say, to be fair, previous day low. So that's going to be a very nice pivot, actually. You can see here, yeah, look at this. On a 15-minute chart, you got a 15-minute chart breaker here with another move to the downside with previous previous day low, this morning's low. So I would really say there around $101,000 is going to be absolutely key. Am I taking a long trade right now? Well, the answer is no. Why? Because well, I don't see the need right now to try and snipe an absolute low while we've just broke one of the biggest pivots on the chart, which is $100,000. You got altcoins dropping left, right, and center. Like altcoins right now are just getting absolutely destroyed, wrecked. You are seeing Bitcoin getting a massive drop to the downside. We haven't even seen the markets open and how they're going to react to all the news of the bombings and things that have going off. I mean, I just don't think it's a optimal time to be like, yeah, I'm going to take a lot of risk here and try and snipe an absolute low. Now, I think we want to at least wait for a market structure change, sign of strength, and we can react to that information. Would I close my short? Absolutely no, not. That my shorts are not getting closed. But would I take maybe a long on that? The answer is yes. And this is one thing psychologically that I will say helps a lot. You might think, oh, it's a bit crazy. If you think, if you think we're going below 100K, you think we're dropping, why would you take a long? Or, why would you take a long hit even here if you feel that there's a lot of risk? Well, again, would I long super aggressively? No. But if I get a trade set up, for example, we see a bit of a reclaim market structure change, we get an actual entry trigger on top of that, which gives me a nice entry trigger for the long, an invalidation stop loss, and I have an intraday target. Even though I could say, well, I believe lower is going to come, I would still take a long trade. Okay, I would still take a long trade. And I know that might confuse some people. Why would you take a long trade if you think the market's going to drop more? Well, the answer is, well, I've got a valid trade setup. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what I think or say. I could say we're going to go to $90,000. It really doesn't matter what I say, because at the end of the day, we trade the charts, we trade the understanding of what's happening from a technical perspective. And when you fully understand, I understand, it really makes no difference what I say. Okay, all we care about is the chart. Okay, so I hope that you understand that, thought process. So what I mean by that is, why would I take a long trade even though I think the market's going lower? Well, if I get a valid long trade setup, I would take that long trade because we absolutely could get a bounce. I just want to see that strength. And I know this for many intermediate newer traders is going to be super confusing because, they can't really get their heads around it. But trust me, with time and experience, you will start to understand this like ebb and flow of the market, understanding probabilities, understanding, well, why would you take a long trade even if you're bearish? Or why would you take a short trade even if you're bullish, right? When I took my short trade, $107,000, I was still leaning bullish. I still actually thought we could hit a brand new all-time high. And so just as right now, I'm not taking a long trade. I was going to say, just no, to make the point actually even clearer, would I take a long trade down here? Yes. So if I would take a long trade, if I get a good setup when I am bearish, just as I would take a short trade setup when I'm bullish if I got a good short trade setup actually occur, right? And I did have a good short trade setup occur around $107,000. So it came together that, well, I was bullish at this point in time. I was looking for new all-time highs, but I still was given a short trade and I took the short trade. Just like right now, you could say, Daniel is bearish. Yeah, I believe lower comes, but I would still take a long trade if given a good setup. So I really hope that that makes sense of why I took this short, even though I was bullish looking for all-time highs, and why I would take a long down here even though I am like bearish looking for lower prices to come, right? It all comes down to having a good trade setup. Okay, a good trade setup. So that's kind of the I'm running out of time here. I'm already see that I'm coming to the 15-minute mark. This was going to just really be a really simple, quick update to explain, the reason for this move to the downside. And I'm telling you 100%, well, in my opinion, that it's well, again, I understand it's not, of course, just because of, oh, this was the Elliott Wave Count. This is the reason why we're dropping. No, of course, there is a mix between here from the Elliott Wave perspective, which, whether you believe this or not, this was the number one tool that led us to believe a drop will be coming. So the Elliott Wave Count, and of course, I would be naive to say that USA dropping bombs on Iran is not having effect. Of course, this is creating fear. This is a lot of people, when I made my video a few days ago where it was titled there's fear in the market, something along this line. I had lots of people commenting, no, there's no fear right now. Nobody's scared. Things like this. But guess what? This is still escalating and escalating. There is people that are fearful about this, whether you want to live in your little reality or not. Like, this is a really serious thing that's happening in the world. And this is creating fear, whether you personally are not feared. Fair enough. I don't think you should live in fear, but when I talk about the world is scared or the world is fearful, of course I'm not talking about 100% of the population, but I am saying a lot of people are really reacting to this information. People are not going risk on when USA is dropping bombs on Iran. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to play this a little bit cautious. I'm going to be a bit sensible here. I'm not going to, I'm not going to see a news of USA dropping bombs, and I'm going to go into a leverage long on my favorite one to hate on dot. Like, why would you go on a high risk asset when you're in the midst of bombs being dropped? It just for me is kind of crazy. So yeah, that was the long story short of my video. What I just wanted to do a really, really quick one for you all here to I've obviously been talking and posting about this account for a few weeks over on Twitter, but for on YouTube, I've not really talked too much about the Elliott Wave Count, but I wanted to do it. Here it is. If you want to actually learn Elliott Waves, of course you can via the Chart Champions group. We got the whole course dedicated to Elliott Waves, and I know this was a bit of a quick video, but I just wanted to do it very, very quickly on this Sunday afternoon. Talk you through the trades, explain why I'd be cautious here, why I'm not aggressively longing here. And look, I think we're about to make a new low. So anybody that has longed over the past 15 minutes, look, they're just about to get stopped out. So, it just goes to show you, people can be very, there you go. And anyone that's longed over the past, 15 minutes all stopped out here. So yeah, it just really, really proves my point. I'm not going to be aggressive. I'm going to wait for some strength until proven otherwise. Yeah, we would expect lower, but of course, when we get a lower term time frame sign of strength, what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to be longing, for example, $99,300. But if I see the strength, if I see the reclaims, or maybe, for example, I get a long in at 100,800 dollars. Okay, so do I snipe the absolute low? No, but I think anyone trying to snipe the absolute low now is getting wrecked and wrecked and wrecked. So maybe you take a long after there's already been, for example, a 1.5% bounce to the upside. So when you take the long, you got 1.5% invalidation stop loss, but you're trading with a instead of like longing here, and I say you're trading with like a 2% probability that there's going to be a bounce. You wait for the strength, you wait for the change. Yeah. Maybe if you longed here, you took a stop loss of 0.3%. I would prefer to wait for the strength probability going from 2%, to in the region of 40%, and a 1.5% stop loss. So bigger stop loss, but you're just massively getting an increase in probabilities that your trade's actually going to, you know, run for a win rather than just taking these super aggressive trades and losing and losing and losing. So, yeah, I wanted to do that video. I hope that you've enjoyed. I thank you all ever so much. I know it was a bit of a quick all over the place one, but yeah, I'm super low on time. I do have to run. And of course, tomorrow I do have a champions live stream for the members, which will be a higher term time frame look on the charts. We'll be going over everything from a swing trade perspective, very thought out. We're going to spend long time on the stream and just looking through everything absolutely very sensibly. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this quick one. Thank you ever so much. And yeah, what can I say? Elliott Waves, best tool in the world. I truly mean that. Elliott Waves, best tool in the world. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. And it's me signing out. Goodbye.